Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to i4Travel's webinar series. The next hour is going to include key industry insight presented by 3 expert speakers who will be discussing the topic of creating apps that engage the travel customer and how travel companies can use mobile to elevate their status to become the must-have travel companion. To join us for the webinar this afternoon, we've invited Paul Barnes, Territory Director from Northern Europe and Middle East at App Annie, Stephen Glenfield, Head of Digital at Heathrow Airport, and Dave Slocum, Product Director Apps from Trainline. During this webinar, there will be 3 presentations followed by a Q&A at the end. We encourage you to contribute by asking lots of questions so we can facilitate an organic and productive discussion for our listening travel community. Please note we will send you the recording tomorrow. These topics will also be further fleshed out at our Digital Strategies in Europe Summit, taking place on November 29th and 30th in Amsterdam, and our North America 2017 Summit, happening on the 9th of Vegas. Do visit the event website for more details. First up today, we have Paul from App Annie. App Annie is the global leader in app market data, helping the travel industry understand how to leverage mobile to deepen their engagement with their customers and ultimately drive revenue back to the business. In his presentation, Paul will be revealing how mobile is changing the way consumers research, book, and rate their travel. He will also explain how travel companies can noticeably improve engagement levels through apps. Over to you, Paul.
Thanks, Rainey. Right, give me 1 second, everyone, and hopefully you can all see my screen on there and we can go. So look, it's great to be with everyone today. Good to have a chance to talk to you all. My part of today really is to frame the discussion. I think provide some data, some analysis, some of the facts and figures, and particularly look into some of those apps that are really driving success in the travel sector and what we can learn from those, what are the sort of common factors that underpin that maybe you can take away. And I'd hope that you'll be able to take a couple of things away to use within your own business. So I'm conscious not all of you may know App Annie. We're very well known within the app market, but if you're relatively new to apps, you might not have come across us. You can see we've got a pretty clear mission statement there around helping every business achieve success through apps. The way we do that is we provide data. The app market's quite unique. It's a very opaque environment because everything's hidden behind the App Store walls. App Annie really, our reason for being is to shine a spotlight on that and allow anybody to get proper information around the market and around the competitive insights that you need to make good decisions around how you run your app, the app side of your business. And broadly, that running that business falls into these sort of 5 circles that you can see on the right-hand side, and there's a chronology to that. So starting at the top with discovering, thinking of understanding what's going on in the app market, how it's working, developing your own strategy, and then the other 3, acquiring, getting people to download and get your app on their phone. And actually it's these bottom 2 ones, the engage, or the bottom left corner, engage and monetize. These are the really critical things. That's where I'm going to spend most of my time talking today. How do you get people regularly engaging with your app, and how do you turn that into actual transactions and revenue? So that's roughly what we do. To give you a sense of kind of credibility, why should you listen to us, I suppose? Our clients is really a who's who of the app world. From we've been going 7 years. We started with the biggest mobile businesses. Some of the you may have played some of the games companies from Rovio or King, but really the big players, Google, Amazon, etc. All of them rely on App Annie data to drive their strategies. In fact, 94 of the top 100 app publishers globally use App Annie, so that's kind of how prevalent we are within the market. And there's 800,000 was the figure I heard the other day from some of my colleagues. 800,000 people using App Annie to inform the decisions they make, which is great. And at the highest level, if you ever listen to Apple, for instance, talk about what's going on in the app market and the size of the App Store compared to other stores, then the phrase "according to App Annie" is something you'll hear a lot. So it does give us a unique ability to talk with some credibility in this. So I'm going to start with one fact, right? And this is, if you like, this is the sit-up moment of my presentation. And I love this figure. In 2021, the projections are for m-commerce, so this is the amount of money people are spending through mobile, will exceed $6 trillion, which is just incredible. I'm going to come back to it and build up to that figure so you get an understanding of what's driving it. But if you ever needed a kind of evidence point as to why you should be thinking very seriously about the revenue aspect of mobile app strategy, then I think there's no bigger proof point than that of how important it is. But we're going to come back to that anyway. I want to start with a few more background figures, if you like. So just put this out there. There's around, on average, about 35 unique apps that people will use in a month. And actually, the figure that's maybe kind of as interesting is it's about 10 a day. So on average, people will use around 10 apps a day. And 85% of the time they spend on their smartphones is within apps. So really, apps is the dominant side of mobile now. And if you add that up, it's 2 hours a day that we spend in apps. And that may seem like a lot when you read it like that. You may think, well, it seems too high, but it's not hard when you think about it. So for me, I woke up this morning, the alarm on my phone woke me up. I checked some messages. I looked at the weather forecast. I looked at the news headlines on my favorite news app. I checked train times. I was going to slightly different location. Dave will be very pleased to hear I use the Trainline app, of course. It's a great app. I was traveling. I used an iPod or podcast app to look at a TED Talk. I was on Slack with some of my colleagues. I flipped into YouTube from something I'd seen on the weekend. So I'm probably at 7 or 8 apps by the time I've even got to work in the morning. And I'm not that unusual as a user, so it's not hard to see how you get to that. And that 2 hours a day, if you think about it, is actually like a month in a year. Okay, so let's crack on, and we'll look at some other figures about the growth here. What's driving this growth? Well, I suppose it starts with devices. You've got to have a smartphone in the first place. And you can see here we're talking about this doubling by 2021. So at the moment, we're around 4 billion devices, smartphones predominantly. That's going to grow to 6 billion by 2021, which is pretty much 1 per head of population on the planet. But more interesting is we're going to start looking at this engagement thing now, this usage side. So whilst devices is growing slightly less than 100%, time spent, so we're looking in trillions of hours per year here. Time spent is growing by more than 120%. So the number of devices is growing significantly, but the amount of time that each device gets used on average is going up as well. So this is these 2 factors that are driving the expansion. And that combines, when you put those together with the maturity and the behavior of people in those apps, that's what underpins this growth. So this is taking us back to that 6 trillion figure again. But maybe more, in some ways more impactful, is the 2016 to 2017. We're talking about 100% increase in m-commerce spend year on year from last year to this year. So this is happening now. This isn't something for the future. The impact of mobile is really now. So let's look at how that particularly impacts on travel. Pardon the vague attempt at a pun I had there, travel apps taking off, but you've got to have a go, I guess. And let's look at, just paint a bit of a picture of the landscape of travel apps, because you can categorize them different ways. The way we like it is this before, during, after. Which has a good sense of timeline to it, I think, for travel. So beforehand, we're looking at, where do you get ideas from? Where's the inspiration? And clearly, social, it's got a big part to play in that. You may use one or more of the apps on here, and then we come through to a decision point, a booking point, and you can see, depending on whether it's airlines or travel or package holidays, where you may go to complete the booking. Loyalty is incredibly important here. We'll see in a minute about the number of apps that people have, and making sure if they have your app, they come back to you from a loyalty perspective is really vital. And then there's these various stages that you have during a trip. So in transit, depending on what the mode of transport is. The exploration part, what you're actually going to do while you're there. Some obvious ones, I guess, on there. Some less obvious, like Pokemon Go and Tinder. But they do get used pretty regularly. And of course, navigation, finding your way around. And interestingly, it's afterwards. There's a figure I saw around, I think it's more than 3/4 of millennials will share on social whilst being on holiday. And this loops all the way back, of course, to where we started with the inspiration. So you can see it's a full landscape of travel apps that exist today. And in terms of the growth of that, the figure is 3 billion in terms of downloads last year, and that's a 50% increase from 2014. And just to give you some context, that's much faster than some of the more mature app categories like social and messaging. And it's actually faster than the non-gaming apps as a whole, which is 42%. So you get a sense that travel is really growing quickly already. And then if we move on and look at that total time figure, again, back to this critical engagement number, you can see it does vary by country quite significantly. Even within Europe, you see the growth rate 2014 to 2016 was big. It doubled in Germany, 100%, but actually it was 150% in the UK. So if you're coming to this session today with a UK focus, it's one of the fastest growing markets in terms of engagement and the time that people spend in apps. So if we look a little bit more and sort of how many apps are people spending time on, this is really starting to get important now. This is limiting, and just shows the amount of time or the amount of time people have to spend in apps. This isn't apps that people use, it's what they have installed. So if you're in the UK, on average, somebody may have 5 apps installed. Now, that doesn't mean they're using those 5 apps every day or even every month. It probably means they're using 2 or 3 on a regular basis. So the question is, for anybody in this environment, how are you going to make sure that you're one of the 2 or 3 that go on in there? And that's just what I'm going to spend the last 5 minutes or so talking about on this. And really what we've done is look at some of the key apps that are there and that are being successful, and we're seeing get great engagement and strong acquisition. And then we're looking at what underpins it. And there's 4 things that I'm going to pull out. The first is this, and it's very deepening customer relationships. I find it incredibly frustrating that many big consumer businesses look at apps as a new channel. They'll say, okay, we had a high street transaction, a high street presence, then we had web, oh, now we've got apps. That's just another channel. It is not just another channel. It's so much more personal than anything that's come before. And it's back to that being part of people's lives. And I think the companies that are being successful in apps really understand that and leverage it. So for example, Airbnb on the left, this big play that they've made around experiences. Not just, let's find you somewhere to stay, where do you want to stay, but more, what are you going to do when you get there? Is it going to be fun? What are the stories that you're going to be able to tell afterwards? How are you going to meet other people and just have a good time when you're there? And that ability to use mobile apps to do that is very powerful. You don't have to do everything yourself. The example on the right, TripMe with the double I really like this one. TripMe have partnered with Booking.com. So that Booking.com are obviously just providing the booking side of it, but as a link into local guides. So it's the ability to connect with someone who's from that town, from that area, who wants to be, is willing to be your guide, and drive a much more personal, much deeper relationship and aspect to a holiday. Or a trip. A more mechanical example, perhaps in the middle with the Marriott app, it's being able to personalize more, to recognize, in this case, when a customer is in hotel during a stay rather than outside a hotel looking therefore at a booking or a historic order, and changing the way the app engages with them according to that. So just being much more personal and relevant to people because of the depth of the relationship. So that's the first. The second is around streamlining. And again, this is really important because if you think, if there's only 3 or 4 or 5 apps on someone's phone, and what's going to determine if you're one of the ones they engage with is how much value you bring. And if you streamline the experience, that's where you bring value. or it's a great way to bring value. So you look at EasyJet, for example, and how they brought things forward with directions and guidance on getting to the airport, being able to track your plane before it ever gets there. You know, it's a nice way to do it. TripAdvisor is more post-journey, so providing a timeline so you can actually see all the places you've been. Visible to you. It's a great reason to go back and stay engaged with the app. United, I think, do some things pretty well in this with push notifications and alerts at relevant points leading up to a journey. And on that push notification point, Traveloka, the last one there, is more around pricing, informing you of great offers based on specific journeys you have or price limits that you've set, actually, I think, within the specific use case there. So it's all of them are really trying to lengthen the experience and move into different aspects of the journey, and that's, again, a great way of being successful, whether it's through partnerships or directly. The third point is around data. And people often miss this, that the potential to understand your customers is so much stronger with mobile than it is with other channels. And that's because, you know, there's some technical things around sensors and locations and so on, and data that you have. And of course, you know, I was going to say, it goes without saying, but it doesn't. The confidentiality, the security, the respect you have to show for customers is, of course, paramount in this because of the data that you have from them. But one of my favorites around this is the fact that you can actually understand the user by seeing what other apps they have. This is one of the data points we provide to our customers that they typically find incredibly insightful and surprising. So in this example on the right, we can see that in February 2017, UK users with Android phones who used TripAdvisor were 4.9 times more likely than the norm to use OpenTable and 4.8 times more likely than the norm to use JobSearch. So you can see, just gives you that depth of understanding about your customers, and that can be insightful in itself, but it can also lead to things like partnerships. So you think about the Booking.com, TripMe side, you know, who should you be partnering with? It can be very influential in that. And finally, just a word to say around emerging technologies. It's always worth tracking this because people's expectations of your app don't come from other travel apps. They come from the apps they use every day, whether they're social or messaging or entertainment apps. And you need to understand how new technology is playing out in those to know what your customers will expect of your app and how you can get the best returns from investing in that. So some top examples, of course, chatbots get talked about a lot. Realistically, they've been very overhyped. But some areas, particularly I think the service side, chatbots rather than waiting for call center interactions is proving useful, less so in revenue areas at the moment. Voice, again, gets a lot of hype. It's really, really early stage, worth considering, but just to put it in context, Amazon, Alexa, expected shippings this year are 10 million. All of them, when you add Google and Apple's plays in home, voice home control adds to about 60 million. You compare that to 1.5 billion smartphones being shipped this month. So it gives you a sense, you know, something like a 1 to 60 ratio. It's still very early days. AR, now I think AR and VR are really applicable into travel. One of the areas I think I know that some of the airports are looking at is how you can use AR to provide information to people when they're in there, using VR to show content about destinations, resorts, locations, and so on. I think there's a lot to play on that. So of those areas, I think, you know, the bottom two probably stand out as applicable to travel right now. So just to summarize, really, I think those 4 areas to think about: deepening the relationship, looking at how you can be relevant across and streamline the journey, understanding how you use the data, and tracking new technology would be the 4 that we would pull out. So that's everything I wanted to say. I'm going to hand back to you, Rainu, and we can pick the conversation up later, I hope.
Great, thanks, Paul. Some great facts there for us to think about. Next up, we have Stephen from Heathrow Airport, one of the largest airports in the world, servicing approximately 200,000 customers daily. In his presentation, Stephen will be addressing how the Heathrow app works to engage its customers to enable a seamless experience, including navigation within the airport and other food and shopping services. In addition, he will discuss how we can use apps to nurture the lifetime value of the customer and drive loyalty. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, and hello and welcome this afternoon. I'll just quickly jump onto my screen, and excellent. Hopefully you can see that. So, let's talk about Heathrow first. Just to give you a quick insight, Heathrow is still the largest hub in Europe. Last year we handled over 75 million passengers. That equates to almost a plane taking off and landing every 45 seconds on 2 runways. We serve 80 airlines, and that gives us 185 destinations in 84 countries. And we've got permission to grow, but unfortunately we won't get a 3rd runway until 2025 at the earliest, given the current government where we are on that. So moving swiftly on. The Heathrow app, it's not new. It's been around for quite a while now. I don't know if you remember the Ash Cloud back in 2010. Well, about 2 weeks before that happened, we launched our first app, and that was purely around flight information. One of the biggest draws that we saw from our website was around how people engaged with the website to find out which terminal they need to get to, is my flight leaving on time, etc., etc. So we invoked on delivering on probably 3 or 4 platforms at the time, which was, of course, iOS, Android, BlackBerry, if you remember that one, and also on Vodafone 360, which was a platform back in the time. But we've now since narrowed it down, and we're really just focusing on purely on Apple and Android devices, because, again, what we've seen from the statistics of people using our app is around 70-30 split of those devices. So again, what makes a good app for us is, again, going back to our key audiences, and what we've got here is our core segments, and these are our 6 core segments and our care groups. So again, example is we want to make the app prevalent to these core areas, and again, the UK leisure, for example, is that 23% of passengers travelling through Heathrow are UK leisure, as opposed to families and people with passenger reduced mobility. So in order to make a great compelling app, we've looked at these segments and we try to understand what are their requirements, how do they use our airports, how do they get to and from the airport, and how that app can actually help them. And again, last year we did a program called Walking in the Passenger's Shoes, which is where whole groups of Heathrow employees actually walked the journey themselves and identified some gain points and pain points, of which we saw technology enabled to solve those. So example, there's 1,300 pain points, and that could be from the toilets not being clean, to security people not being warm and welcome and friendly, to people not actually seeing the flight information screens in the terminal. And we looked to digital to help resolve those. And again, the app is one core component of that. So what makes a great app? We've sort of categorized it into probably 5 key areas. Of course, it has to be engaging. Why do people want it? They will need information, and we see the Heathrow app providing that key information, whether it's flight information, traveling to and from the airport, or actually helping, assisting them around the airport. It has to be effortless, and what we mean by a seamless experience. If the UX is not good and it takes a while to enter your credit card details, people will just quickly switch off, and it's the quickest way to actually delete your app. It has to be relevant. So again, we see this as, we always get asked the question is, why does a person download an airline app or a Heathrow Airport app or these third-party apps like TripIt or Tripcase, etc., etc. And we think we have the most relevant content and the most worldly content that's up to date and relevant to that person traveling through Heathrow. It has to be predictive. Again, what is the type of content people want? And that leads nicely into personalization. If we know who you are, we know when you're coming to the airport, by what mode of transport, we can then provide a seamless passenger experience that's tailored to you, the individual, based on your needs. And we see the mobile device has always been a personal digital concierge to help you to, through, and from that airport. So one of the key features I'm just listing out quickly here within our app today is, of course, real-time flight information. That's one of the key drivers why people download that. And that could be anyone from someone who's first-time flying to the regular business traveler to even a minicab waiting to pick someone up at the airport. We use real-time push notifications. So again, if you're in the airport, in that location, you no longer have to get up and look at the screens. You know, if you picture the scene, you're always hanging around the screen to find out what's happening. You know, you walk up every 5 minutes to check it. Why not have that mobile app in your pocket, and you'll get that buzz, which is a key driver to moving you to your next step in the journey. So for example, if you're in a departure lounge, you'll get a push notification to say flight BA 177 to New York is now departing from gate 17, for example. We also have indoor terminal apps, and I'll talk a little bit more around that. But today what you'll see is more of a exploratory. You can look in there and you can see the types of restaurants and services. But I'll mention a moment where we're going to move that along to tailor that to a more personalized experience. On with journey planning, and again, that's to and from Heathrow. We are a multimodal airport, so we have a number of modes of transport coming in and to and from the airport, whether it's bus, coach, taxi drivers, chauffeur service, Uber, of course, the Heathrow Express. And what we're trying to do, again, is give people options. If people know where they're getting to or where they want to go to, can we present the information in a relevant, timely information to help plan their journey to and from the airport? Heathrow Rewards is our loyalty scheme, and I'll talk a little bit more around loyalty and how we're going to integrate that into the app and how we can, again, personalize the experience. And that's one of the key things we're trying to talk here is personalizing. The app for us is that personalized device for the day of travel, whereas the website is supplementary. You're planning your trip, you're finding out weeks in advance, whereas the app is more around the day of travel. Of course, we also have special offers and shop and restaurant listings, and then we move on to services. Car park bookings from short stay, long stay is probably one of the biggest revenue drivers for us at the moment, and people can pay easily through their normal credit card, or they can use Apple Pay in the near future, for example, on Apple devices. We also do promoted services, so you can reserve travel money, reserve and collect shopping, and you can hire a personal shopper all through this app, and it also notifies you on the day of travel if there's anything relevant happening in the terminal that you'll be going through. So for example, if you're going with the family, kids eat free. If you're a music lover, we might have a band in the terminal, or there might be an experiential where we might have a gin festival or a whiskey festival, and this will alert you to this and actually drive you to those stores. It also works, we've got notifications working on wearables, and that's just been supplemental information. So rather than grab your mobile device, if you do have a Android Wear or an Apple Watch, again, these notifications get pushed richly onto your wrist. So I talked about terminal maps, but again, what we'll be launching this month is that Blue Dot experience. We're all quite used to that with Google Maps and Apple Maps, but actually bringing it inside into a struggling infrastructure that enables Blue Dot to work has been problematic over a couple of years. But fortunately, we've now been working with Apple to get the Blue Dot experience working for Apple devices, and we'll be deploying over 2,000 beacons to mobilize the Android experience as well. So this then enables that again, personalized experience. How do I get to, or combining it with the push notification of it's now time to get up from the departure lounge and move to gate A51, for example, for your flight. You can now get directions built into that, and it'll take you, it'll tell you how far away it is. It'll actually tell you around the services that are currently around you within a certain perimeter. And again, with proximity marketing, we can then maybe target you at one or two offers, whether that's a retail or a food and beverage. Moving on from this, we see a phase 2 developing, which probably later next year, where we are looking at augmented reality. And we see this complementing the current, what we call 2D bird's eye type map that you see in front of you, to more of a visual what's around me and contextualizing that. So as you hold the phone up, it'll then go into camera mode, and then you can look at the yellow signage or purple signage for connecting people, and that will then translate into your natural language if you're coming from afar. Or if you move the camera around, you can then see what restaurants, what special offers are clearly visible around you, or even to know where the nearest toilet is. So we think VR has a big place to play, not only in terms of wayfinding, but also then, I think Paul mentioned, in that experiential zone. So it could be around that whiskey fest, talking about, where that whiskey was produced, the water and everything else that goes to create it. Or again, it could be talking about your onward destination. If you're flying to Paris, what would be the top 10 destinations to try and visit while you're there. So again, terminal wayfinding, augmented reality is definitely something that's on our agenda at Heathrow Airport. We're also looking at pre-order service. So this is in two flavors. We currently today have a reserve and collect shopping feature. So if you wanted to order a Louis Vuitton handbag or a Mulberry collection, you can do that for our boutique offering. But what we'll be shortly doing again for a proof of concept, and that's coming in August, is a food and beverage pre-order. So we've teamed up with a company called Grab, who are based in the US, and have currently deployed this same system over 30 airports in the US. And it's quite a simple concept, really. And if you think about what the Just Eat and the Just app does, you log on to the app, you then have a clear list of all the restaurants that will be in the terminal, and then you can look at the food, pre-order them, pay, and then collect them when you go through the airport. And again, beacon technology can enable that to happen. So if you're delayed coming into the airport or the security queues are a bit longer, we'll actually know where you are. So therefore, if you are collecting a hot food, for example, the beacon will know where you are and get that location, and it'll pop up and say, you're through security. Do you still want your meal? Yes or no? And if it's yes, it'll then send a message to the chef to prepare that freshly food for you. Other things we're looking at, again, we have 2 Michelin-star restaurants and in Terminal 5 and in Terminal 2 with Heston Blumenthal and Gordon Ramsay. Again, you can pre-order not only your food, but also if you're in a large group, you can actually reserve a table. So it's making the speed and convenience of traveling through a modern-day airport such as Heathrow. And again, if that works out, our next phase will be then delivering to the gate or delivering to you. Again, using beacon technology or that blue dot technology as, rather than walking up to the counter, could you go straight to the gate, or could you sit down in a lounge and we'll actually bring the goods to you? And again, making that a seamless experience for you. Again, loyalty, and again, Paul talked about loyalty as well. This is something we're clearly building into our Heathrow app. We've got it today, and it just gives you your points balance. But again, what we're looking at is, can you reward people while they're using their mobile devices? We've seen a sort of more of a shift change now, thanks to Apple Pay and the likes, of where people are using their mobile devices whilst they're traveling. I think according to CETA, there's about 85% of all travelers are now carrying a mobile device. So that presents a real opportunity for Heathrow. And again, we see the loyalty program and combining that into our Heathrow app as a way to engage with people. So if you look at what we can do today, you can buy car parking, you can do shopping, you can buy Heathrow Express tickets, you can actually go into a lounge and you can buy all that shopping and get rewarded it through the Heathrow loyalty scheme. But that gives us, again, a wealth of data to label it to be more personalized. So, next time you come through Heathrow, if we know you like Paul Smith and we've got a voucher available, we can pop that up on your screen and present that to you and hopefully get you into the stores to spend some money. We also have our reward wallet, so we have a Heathrow Reward that tells you your points. But again, that earns points at Heathrow, but longer term what we want to do is transfer those points. And as you'll see in the bottom corner then, we are working with Avios and Miles & More, Etihad and Emirates, for example, to make that whole experience more worthwhile from a travel perspective. So for example, with Emirates, you can now take their Emirates points and bring it into the Heathrow Rewards card, or likewise, you can transfer your Heathrow Reward points out to Avios. And again, that loyalty ecosystem is growing to make it more valuable to the customer. And a quick scan there is a key point. There is every 6 seconds a card is presented at Heathrow. So all that data we can draw from a loyalty program to help provide a seamless experience to our customers. And finally, what does that future look like? We are in a cashless society. Where do we see apps going from there? We still see the Heathrow app being present. As I say, we see the app sitting beside an airline app because we can provide that richness of information that's contextually aware through navigation, special offers, to and from the airport, all that type of functionality that you don't see yet coming through from an airline app. We're doing that now. And again, I think as we move forward, you've got to look at the whole biometrics. And again, we're trialing this today. We're looking at e-gates and self-bag drop. And again, our loyalty system could help engage with that. So again, we could envisage a system where using a Heathrow app, you would have a fast-track process maybe getting through the airports. Because again, it's that leveraging that value between you providing us with data and us getting a brilliant service delivered to the customer. And that's it from Heathrow. I'll take any questions later on, but I'll hand back to the speaker. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much, Stephen. That was really insightful. Now, for anyone who has joined us halfway, feel free to type in any questions you might have. We've got a Q&A happening right after the next presentation. Now, our final presenter for today is Dave Slocum from Trainline. Trainline is the world's leading independent digital rail platform, with over 16.5 million people visiting Trainline apps and websites each month. It is also a one-stop shop for rail travel, bringing together major train companies onto one platform, providing customers with a complete set of travel options and offering unique, AI-driven travel information and recommendations. Over to you, Dave.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dave Slocum. I'm just about to share my screen. 1 second. Okay, hi. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Paul and Stephen, for your kind of data-driven decision-making and customer-driven process. Hopefully I can touch on both of those as well from the Trainline perspective. So my name's Dave. I'm the Mobile Apps Product Director, and I guess I joined Trainline about 3 years ago to bring the apps in-house. They were first kind of incarnated as through agencies, and now we have our own in-house team. So part of this will be telling you some of the Trainline's mission, and some of it hopefully will be interesting. I'll lift the hood on how we do things and some of our exciting kind of product development coming up. So from the top, Trainline is the world's leading independent digital rail platform. And for those of you less familiar with the rail market, rail is a massive opportunity, something we're very excited about. If we look at it from a market size in Europe, it's a $79 billion market. In Asia, even larger at $116 billion. One of the exciting things about rail is, and one of the things we see through our app customer experience, is the frequency of use. And that makes us a really engaging product. More journeys than air are taken, and more high frequency as well. So if you look at rail versus flights, rail would be 24 journeys per year versus 2 flights per year, which for us is a great opportunity to build a relationship with our customers and actually develop product features that really meet, reach a wide base. But 70% of tickets are still bought offline. Would you believe it? People still turn up at the station and queue up and suffer through getting a paper ticket. And the paper ticket doesn't help you if something goes wrong either. So our mission in the app is really to be that end-to-end kind of customer champion to take you from both purchase but also through your journey and help you through that. In Europe, over 90% of tickets are these digital mobile tickets. And in the UK, we're around 50% of the market is mobile tickets, and we're working sort of tirelessly with our train operating partners to roll out new technologies to enable that on more routes. We work with 86 train companies in 24 countries now, which actually is 35,000 stations. I think to compare that to UK, there's 2,500 rail stations in the UK, so it shows how much in the last 3 years we've grown. And it's an enormous opportunity for us to expand in Europe. From our product footprint, I'll just give a kind of a top-level view. We supply both customers, business customers, and as a kind of white label provider as well, we built the platform for a lot of train companies. So for consumers, our mission is really about providing something the cheapest and fastest way to get to their destination through a world-class customer experience with innovative product features. And in fact, to grow the market in the whole as well through inspiring new journeys. For business customers, one of our really unique selling points here is that we expose business functionality through our consumer products. So that means our fast, innovative delivery cycle means that all the new features are available to our business customers as well as the enhanced business booking tools that you'd expect, such as pay on account and multiple account management, employee lists, all those kind of things. For white label and train and coach companies, we actually provide access to new customers because, say you're a rail franchise holder and you have 5 years to kind of manage your line, you really consider how much you invest in your technology platform, and that really caps the amount of investment that can be made. Whereas if you work with Trainline, you can really benefit from our over a decade worth of being in the market and our technology platform to have something that's low cost to manage and serve your customers at a very high quality. So let's talk app. obviously my favorite topic. Our app is the #1 app in UK and in Europe with the #1 independent retailer of tickets. And it's one of the things here I'm going to do is lift the hood on who we are. So from a team, when we brought our team in-house, I mean, we've grown it from around, I think, 6 people when I began to over 50 now. And one of the things that really helps us deliver fast, but really understand customer problems and reduce that time between idea and cross-functional team. So if you're looking at your business and think about, who do I need in the room to really solve problems? This is who we have to solve our problems. So we have mobile marketing to help us understand the market and also leverage our engagement, ensure we have app store optimization, ensure we have good mobile marketing, both paid and social. We have data analysts. So one of the things we practice is called innovation accounting. So that's where you say you see a problem and you size the value of solving that problem. How many customers would we solve the problem? How many customers would be, their day would be made better if we solve that problem? And how would that help us or benefit us financially to do that? Then we release the feature and we measure, did it actually achieve the goal we set out to achieve? Did it reach that many customers? Does it need improvement? And that's that continuous learning process. We have QAs who help us ensure we've got quality and delivery to the market. We have visual and UX designers who understand the depth of complexity of the platforms themselves. So we work very closely with Apple and Google, for example, on launches. So we were a launch partner on Apple Watch, on the iPad, and we have great partnerships with them through having great implementation of their design language. And also we have front-end and service developers as well, means this team can operate autonomously. So it doesn't rely on lots of back-end teams to develop things. We can actually build some of our own core capabilities so that we can end-to-end solve the problem for customers. And of course, lastly, we have product owners like myself. So really, customer experience is at our heart. If we look at some of the core kind of capabilities we expect that our customers demand, really it's about surfacing all the options at the best price. UK rail, European rail is complicated. Our role is about cutting through that to create a simple, universal, frictionless interface. There's something that's also a little bit delightful, something that can step forward and call out things to you at the right moment, at the right time in the flow, so make sure you discover the best price or the right delivery method or the more information that makes you more comfortable when you're traveling. We're also a smart travel companion, and this is something we're really building on at the moment, which is you may buy your ticket through us, but the power of buying through Trainline and our app is that we're in your pocket all of the way. So we have an end-to-end kind of digital CRM that helps you through messaging, through in-app capabilities, and really core kind of information about your journey to make sure that should anything go wrong, you've got information that helps you and actually plan your journey to get you to your destination. But also your rights as well. We created a system with the industry that allows you a no-fee refund within 2 hours, or you can refund within 2 clicks if you decide you're not going to go in that journey. Core capabilities like that really make a journey better. I guess lastly, rail is a huge market, but there's so much more potential. If you think about the number of brands who are selling flights and selling flights and hotel packages and weekend breaks or city breaks, in my previous life a long time ago at lastminute.com, that's one of their core categories. And this is something in rail that's not really heard of. So we're looking to imagine what would that be for rail. How could we bring together destinations and trains so that people can really discover new opportunities that they hadn't considered before? Now, stepping forward, we're really, a core capability we've built is not just our product and app development team. It's kind of merging that with data science and data engineering. And that's where we're able to create new product solutions to problems that have never been solved before. Now, that for me is really exciting and why I get out of bed in the morning. BusyBot is a feature that there's no data in the industry that tells you when there's a seat free, unless you've got a seat reservation. There's nothing out there. So if you're on a crowded platform and you're imagining, should I go to the front of the platform or the back end of the platform? Will I be more or less likely to get a seat? Should I catch the next train? Will I get a seat then? There's nothing that will tell you that. So we imagine BusyBot. Now, BusyBot asks our customers, is there a seat free on their carriage? And is it the front, middle, or back? And we actually have 25 to 30,000 pieces of feedback a day, which all go into our BusyBot predictive engine. Now, VisiBot can actually predict now across the UK rail network whether you'll get a seat or not. And actually, that's a kind of user-generated interface, and actually tells people now predictably if there will be seats free. Because we believe, traveling quickly to your destination is important. Traveling cheapest as possible to your destination is important, so you get value for money. But also traveling comfortably to your destination is really important too. And that's one of our kind of unique value propositions in the app. Journey prediction is something our data science teams created based on looking at our 15 years worth of traveler data. And actually, they can predict within a very high level of accuracy, if you've done one journey, what does the next journey you're going to make? And actually, we use that to power our kind of personalized CRM emails. So when you receive, you do a booking with us, we can recommend your next journey, and our rates of kind of open rates and conversion rates on CRM has gone through the roof. I guess lastly, in our grow the market, inspire new journeys kind of vein, we have created kind of personalized places to visit email from our customer data as well. And that means that we are able to look at where you live and the kind of places you can reach from where you live, and whether that be nice for a weekend break or to visit the seaside, etc., and actually promote that with pricing, all those kind of things. So these three things are just the beginning of the power of data science and product to really solve problems that haven't been solved before. Because lastly, underpinning that, we're not just integrating APIs and retailing tickets and taking people to their destinations. We're also care deeply as being a good partner to the rail industry and to our travel train partners as well. Here's just one example. There are many, many examples of where Trainline is working at creating core technology to really advance the industry. In 2016, we worked with the rail industry to create the e-ticket specification. Now, e-tickets are a very simplified version of a barcode travel ticket that you can put in your Apple Wallet, and it requires us working with train partners. So we worked with Virgin West Coast as our partner to trial it, and now it's being rolled out across the industry, and I think we have around 15% of routes are now enabled with this new, easier, more user-friendly ticket type that you can also print as a backup if you really want to. So I guess to summarize, what's next? Continue to innovate. Really, that kind of data-driven products and solving customer problems is at our heart. And to do that, we want to have more options as well, more supply. We're bringing on new partners, both in rail and coach. From ground transportation, we want to solve it all, end-to-end journey planning. So looking at more supply and more partners, which obviously gives us more geographies and countries. We're adding languages and currencies as quickly as we can. Whereas in Europe, we're extremely well-known. In UK, we're an extremely well-known brand, and we're across Europe, it's a different case. We're the upstart, we're the startup against the giant kind of national carriers. So there, we need to spread the word about the value of having an independent, travel retailer for rail, and we're doing that. So that's it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Dave. We've now come to the end of our presentations. To sum up, we've heard from Paul Barnes from App Annie, Stephen Glenfield from Heathrow Airport, and finally Dave Slocum from Trainline, who have given us some great insights and information to think about. We will now get into some questions from the audience. The first one is for Paul Barnes from App Annie. Seamless integration between web function and app function is important. When contemplating creating a service that will cross over between web and app, what technical expertise do I need to engage to design and develop it?
Okay, thanks, Serena. Yeah, it's a good question, and this issue about web versus app comes up quite a lot. So I think I'd answer it by saying technically you need to have a core infrastructure that can support both. I think we've all probably learned that from the retail sector as consumers ourselves. Unless you've got a core infrastructure that can support the same customer details, same transaction records, and support those in close to real time across different channels or different ways of engaging, then it's really going to be a bad customer experience. So that's the building block, I think. On top of that, though, I'd say when you're looking at sort of commonality of experience, I think they are really different. The app is not the same as a web channel. It may be worth considering making sure your website is fully mobile optimized for those users who may be just one-time users. But once you've got a regular kind of engagement with someone via mobile, it really has to be about native app, because there's so much potential to do those things that I think all three of us have talked about today, with deeper experiences and streamlined experience and streamlined journeys and so on. There's so much more potential to do that in native than you can in mobile web. So as I say, maybe mobile web for one or two time users, but regularly it has to be native rather than any kind of wrap around a website, I would say. I'd be kind of interested to see what Dave has to say on that. I know he's probably been across both sides of that with Trainline.
Hi, thanks, Paul. From an app, as the app product owner, of course, I think every customer should be on the app. But what we see at Trainline is that web is amazing for acquisition, and app is for retention. I think it's very challenging to grow an app customer base without a good SEO strategy, without using the very efficient, sometimes retargeting ads that you can have across the web to bring customers back to your products, whether it be web or app. But as soon as you've got your first transaction, already first strong engagement, getting them into a native personalized environment, if you invest in that, that's something that's very sticky and can keep your customers with you and provide new channels to communicate with them.
Okay, great. Just moving on to the next question. Stephen, I've got two questions for you. The first one is the Heathrow app developed by an in-house team or contracted to another company?
Yes. So we manage it in-house, but we do contract out to a third party at this moment in time, yes.
Okay, great. Second one is, what providers do you use to add content, relevancy, and personalization to make the Heathrow app more engaging?
Great question. We have a number of third parties ranging from flight information to scheduled timetables. We have the Met Office with Weather. We connect with over 200 retailers on airport for the reserve and collect product. And we're reaching out to more and more people to provide more content, like city guides, for example, about destinations, events, etc., etc. So there's probably around 10 to 15 third parties that we're using via APIs or SDKs to make the app what it is today. But again, the platform that we're developing on, we're moving to an Adobe suite with Adobe Marketing Cloud, and that's providing us with new functionality to engage with customers.
Okay, great. This question, I guess I can throw it out to the three of you, and then I guess feel free to jump in. As an app, you need to get as much traffic and users as possible. What kinds of marketing activities are you doing? Where do you invest the most?
Hi, Rena, it's Paul here. Shall I make a quick start on that?
Yeah, go for it.
Really by saying, before you even look at marketing and advertising, there's a couple of basics. There's a stat published fairly recently about 65% of app downloads coming from App Store searches based on a brand term. So searching for Trainline or Heathrow Airport or whatever it might be. So just a real basic first step is make sure you've got your App Store optimization or ASO side of it right. You're understanding what keywords are driving downloads for you, what traffic share of downloads is coming from those different keywords. And actually, you know, it's not uncommon now for people to competitively target other brands' keywords through ASO or even through paid search. So just make sure you're doing the basics, I would say, as one point. But I'll hand over to see what the other guys have to say.
Hi, so Dave from Trainline, happy to jump in. So I think that's a good point on App Store optimization. I think there's a lot of free wins there. All it takes is the kind of using research tools like App Annie to kind of leverage. There are lots of ways you can, re-engage customers. I think that, one of our most efficient channels is probably Facebook, and because obviously you can personalize to quite a high level, and that's that personalization that helps people kind of recognize the product again when they see it, recognize the purpose of why they were going to buy that product, and engage them in a very quick way back into your app or website, especially with things like universal linking between your app and your website. That's a great way of, if you do introduce an app, to leverage traffic across all your channels. From a CRM point of view, getting having your new customer onboarding process very clear, and what kind of messaging customers want to have, and the sort of further information they may need, is really important too. So ensuring you've got a ladder of communication from CRM, because if you get their email, then you need to be able to take them through that kind of onboarding. First, discoverability of new features in the app, for example, or if they've done a journey search and they've been exploring several journeys but they haven't made a booking, it's sending them an inspiration that's kind of personalized to their journey searches, makes you relevant, and they make you realize you're doing more than just trying to sell a generic product. You're actually trying to tailor to somebody's needs, and that has the most engagement.
Great. Actually, another question which links very well to what you've both just discussed. If you have a limited budget, what is the most useful data-driven insight you can acquire, ultimately to drive personalization and perhaps increase sales?
Cool, what a great question. I like that. I think from my side, from an App Annie point of view, and where I've seen our customers and data users have biggest impact for least effort, if you like, is around partnerships, and actually looking at cross-app usage. So understanding what apps that your current customers use in addition to your apps when they're using it at the same time, and that can open up things for partnerships. By going to, if you're a travel app, maybe going to a food and drink app who has a big crossover and doing some joint promotions, or it may be around things like understanding what your users are going to expect because of what other apps they're using, and therefore making one or two tweaks which can drive revenue or open opportunities. And just generally having a better understanding of your customers can be really helpful. It can actually, so one other point I was thinking there was actually advertising. It can be a really good way of identifying particular apps you want to place adverts in if you have a very limited marketing budget, targeting your spend by where your users, your user demographic is a good way of getting a return. So there's some off-the-cuff thoughts on that.
Great. Thanks for that.
We've got a bit of a captive audience. Fortunately for us, we have 200,000 people walking through our terminals each day. So we do a lot of advertising on site through what we call our JC Decode sites, but also we leverage our Wi-Fi. So we have a free Wi-Fi available, and again, 60 to 70,000 people connect to that. We see that's our biggest draw to encourage people to download the eFlow app.
Hi, Ike is Dave from Trainline. So I guess another dimension there is that at Trainline, we listen to our customers every day. And I think it's really important that we have both a qualitative and a quantitative view of the barriers to customers adopting your product, barriers to your customers engaging with it. So, it is to some degree free. It's on just your time to actually engage customers. So we have in-house user testing. We invite customers in. We use things like usertesting.com to talk to customers across Europe. We use surveys, we use all kinds of ways of engaging with that qualitative data, from also app reviews. I mean, literally there, with your brand, I'm sure there's 100 touch points where you can get qualitative feedback. So I would start with that. Let's start with grouping that and understanding, what are the pain points that you need to address to that customer, and go after those.
All right, so we're down to, probably got time for another 2 questions before we're going to have to wrap up. So this one is, how do you see AI playing a role influencing the app-driven segments? Open question once again.
Hi there, this is Dave from Trainline. So it's a very exciting area for us. I think every new surface area where we can engage with our customers is really important. I think it is early days on things like AI, and I think voice user interfaces were mentioned. But with things like API.ai, there's some really powerful tools online for people to create an experiment. For example, we're looking at voice-driven user interfaces based on that. And the machine learning aspect is not just the kind of public tools you can use, but since we've invested in building our data science and data engineering team, the amount of machine learning to solve problems like finding a seat on a train. There are thousands of different kind of problems that can be solved that have never been solved before with the power of machine learning and AI interfaces, those kind of things. So I would say, we are heavily putting, we're heavily putting our first foot forward into that. I have no doubt in the next few years we'll be putting both feet into that area.
Yeah, I think, Dave, it's Paul here. I think that's a great example. I really like your BusyBot story. I think that plays well to the AI point. Kind of just to flip it around a little bit, I'd say it's going to be very useful at solving those problems. There's a danger that people try and solve problems that aren't there. And in some of these cases, I think, back to things like chatbots and voice, obviously they're very popular. They get a lot of press at the moment. In many cases, though, if it's not solving a problem, it can just add friction, which is actually a negative in terms of customer experience. For many situations, as a smartphone user, the graphical user interface is a really slick way of solving a problem or getting to a task. So I think machine learning, for me, is probably more impactful right now than actually AI through different interfaces like voice and chatbots. I'm sure that'll change over time as the technology gets better, but we're slightly in the kind of hype cycle, I think, with them at the moment.
I'd agree with that. I think machine learning is the first step to get to AI. At Heathrow, again, it's that machine learning of knowing where that person is and understanding what that passenger journey looks like. So, if they come off a train and then go to check-in, and based on the time of the flight, what is the normal user flow that would get through the airport, and how we can predict that to make it, whether it's more staff through security to make it seamless, or again predicting, the more inclined if they've got 20 minutes to just pick up a sandwich, where if they've got an hour and a half, we can actually then suggest a restaurant or a retailer or another service to that customer. So I see machine learning or AI actually helping us predict what that customer wants, or suggesting what they should do in the time they have left at the airport.
Great. All right, on to our last question. I guess throughout the webinar, we have discussed in detail greatly about the various opportunities and the massive potential for mobile and apps in the travel sector. So I guess the question really is, how do you all see travel customer behavior continuing to change in the future?
Okay, it's Paul here. I have one last go at that. I think the big change, I'll just actually loop back to that $6 trillion spend figure. I think for me that's key. At the moment, if you look at the amount of transactional spend in travel that goes particularly for bigger ticket purchases, it's just taking off. So I think that for me, we'll see travel consumers have a higher level of trust to transact fairly large sums through apps, which maybe they didn't have before. So that would probably be my number one expectation of change.
Hi, this is Dave from Trainline. So really good question. Where are we going next? One of the trends we've seen over the last 3 years is the move to kind of the instant gratification. 77% of our customers are using mobile today. And growth of ticket sales on the day of travel, that means no pre-planning at all, is 200% year on year. Now that's outstripping the growth of any other segment. And what we're seeing is that apps are really at the heart of that. So the more that you can position, and we can position our products to be instantly available, instantly supplied, instantly delivered, and also when things, when you're on your journey and you need feedback and support, that we can do that instantly. That is really where the mobile interface is going to have the most engagement. One of the interesting stats I have from App Annie is that we look at the beta daily active user report, and actually if you compare Trainline to Uber, 4.5 days a week, Trainline has more daily active users and engagement than Uber does. And this is because Trainline has a highly engaging data-driven interface. It tells you when your train's going to be late, where the progress of your train is. It helps you to get to your end destination with a digital ticket. So having an engaging product all through the life cycle, but one way you can get instant gratification is where you can end up winning.
Yeah, just Paul again, I really like that Dave, and I think that instant gratification and the link in, I think, for revenue there is potentially around ancillary sales as well. maybe not particularly within Trainline, but in the travel sector generally, the ability to link in and provide those extra sales can play to that too.
I'd agree there, Steve from Heathrow. It's that contextually aware in that moment, whether you want to buy a fast track or a lounge based on where you are and what you're doing. And I think, again, the whole biometrics for me is quite an interesting thing where mobile will help tie those services together, whether it's from train, plane or airports and beyond. It's that whole mobile experience there people will rely on even further going forward.
Well, everyone, I think it's time to bring this webinar to an end. On behalf of i4Travel, I'd like to thank Paul, Stephen and Dave for sharing their insights on mobile app engagement this afternoon. Also, a big thank you to all those who listened in and for contributing to the discussion today. Just another note, we will be sending out the recording to everyone who signed up tomorrow. We hope you have enjoyed the last hour and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.